You gonna miss me, Doc?
Well, I have so far every time.
Can be dull without me.
Well, I'm thinking about taking a little time off. Just because you're leaving. If Coda's not here, I know.
Everyone's gonna be discombobulated. Yeah.
Do me well.
Sir. Morning. Get out tomorrow. Thanks.
Yeah.
See what happens. I don't know.
What is Lucerne mean? Mine.
Yes, sir.
Wait, what does Lucerne mean?
Lucerne? Discern.
Lucerne. It's right here says it's a damn lake. It's a damn lake. Switzerland. City. Yeah, but I mean, what does it mean?
You ever seen that's what that
City of Switzerland. Lake Lucerne.
That's what they do in Lucerne.
I would use this big one. How do you spell it? Lascerne?
Particle molecule. Sounds like it'd be a CERN.
Hey, how's it spelled? LASWC.
Whoa!
This guy.
He's addicted. That's what it is.
I want to get some number.
WCTR.
It's like that. It'd be like that.
And in here it just says alfalfa. I'm thinking of the hate alfalfa.
Don't do it.
You right for me.
Oh.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
I told my he has bags. I'm going to tell you. Seriously, he's got flat inside.
He shakes ankle, shakes, and
He'll follow it.
doesn't matter. There's little spikes on the side of the last year. I think. Andrew. Want to tell him we're starting up? Want to tell him we're starting up? That time?
Oh.
No.
What about
Starting up.
oh.
Well, how's everybody doing this morning?
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, it's a good day. It's Friday Eve, and that's always a pretty good day. We
Did he forget to shave?
He did. Apologize. We're going to be looking at addiction, what it is today. I had a couple of encounters with some folks who were really not sure what that was, and so we're going to go ahead and go over some of that stuff today to see, just to get an identification of it, some stuff like that, just some housekeeping things to sign in on sign-in sheets. Y'all know that. We'll get that done. I will, and please at North, make sure you give those to Miss Chastity or somebody there so that they can scan that to me, which is what we're doing now. Today the group is going to be a little truncated, a little bit shorter. We'll have our 45 minutes or hour in the morning. We may end that just a little early because the second part of it's going to have to be a little bit shortened because we have a big old meeting that we have to attend and I have to prepare for that. So we may get out of here a little bit early, but that's okay because we're going to put all of the stuff in here to do that. Everybody has their, and tomorrow, just so you know, going to be a video because we're gonna. You need to talk.
I was trying to see. I can't go on the desk to get the sign sheet.
Where's the RA?
I got Washington is in the bedroom.
Well, when they get out here, they'll get that. Thank you for being on top of that. So anyway, tomorrow's going to be a video day because on Fridays we don't do a live group, but the group has to be one. Usually it's going to be one where I'm teaching. I know y'all love that. If it's not that, it has to be a treatment movie or a treatment thing. Yes, sir.
I've got a really good watch about the piece,
Okay. Okay.
but it has to be clarified.
Yeah, you have to give us the title and all of that stuff, and then we'll look it up. I like those things. I really do. I like treatment movies. They are part of treatment. We use a lot of those things in treatment, but they have to be approved because some of them are inappropriate, and I have to explain while we're doing that. We had one on the other day, and it was it was a pretty good movie, I thought, and it was really just getting right into it. And they happened to be in and they being my supervision in the boardroom right there, and you can hear it coming through the wall, and it had some pretty salty language, and so they said, "What on earth is?" And they came to see me because I was out here, and I had to let them know that we're going to go through that. So the movie, if we watch a movie, we have to go through the movie. The movie has to be clinical in nature. The movie has to be treatment in it, and then we have to process it. So and that's all can be done. So yeah, give me the name, and we'll look it up, and we more than likely can do it. And so tomorrow we'll be doing something other than this. We are still talking about families, but look, on the family thing, we don't always have to go to the family and have an absolute, this is family. We don't have to do that. We can add something in and do something a little bit different, and that's necessary sometimes because there are some things we have to do. This is one of them. The state tells us what we have to teach. Some of the stuff they leave to our decision and just let us do it, but a lot of them they say you have to do it, and since they're paying for everything, then do what they tell us to do. But on the fourth one of these things, the fourth stage in our book, which is on page 21, it tells us, look, you view your family and loved ones as willing partners. They're there to help you. Or at least those key members who you remain close to. I have family members, a couple of those people I am close to, some of those people I am not, and more not than am. But there are some key members that I'm close to. While there's still some, and this is true in my life, while there's still some minor conflict resolution, it's not that big a deal, or relationships that need repair that needs to occur. The overall health and stability of your family relationship is strong. Now, here's the deal. These things don't necessarily just relate to your family. They can relate to friends, close people like that. Because a lot of the time, and I know you know this, but a lot of the times our friends are closer to us than our family. They can mean more to us than our family. It's a natural progression for us at some point to leave family relationships and to more create and grow relationships that become familial that are not in the family. So that's a normal, natural progression. So what's this guy up here today? He's not looking too good, and I apologize for the poor rendition, but I've had a couple of big things that I was having to do this morning before we got started, so this was left on the back burner way too long and didn't get a chance to really get in here doing good. So anyway, this guy here is suffering from some addiction. Something's got a hold of him, and he's not able to let it go by himself. So we're going to look at the nature of addiction, what it is, and so that we can identify it in our own lives, maybe identify it in somebody else's life, and maybe be of help to other people. I'm a little bit shaky this morning, so I may be having a little bit of water, a little bit of coffee. Nothing else, though. Nothing that's illegal. Say it again.
Coffee and water.
Coffee and water. That's it. So addiction. One of the biggest things that we need to learn about addiction, and I've had way back in the day, I've had some people come and tell me, not as much today as they used to, but people come and tell me that, it can't, I don't believe that it's a disease because nobody sneezed on me and gave it to me. But look, it has been declared a disease by the AMA way many years ago. Back in the 1800s, there was a doctor who decided that he was going to help people who had problems with alcohol. He wasn't looking at any other drug. The problem back then was more alcohol than anything else. And so he was in a little cowboy town, and he went out and he would collect the town drunks. And he would bring them into his home and put them in his home and lock them in and not let them go until they were sober. And then he would let them go. And so he did that. He'd keep them for about a week, and they'd get all sobered up, and then he'd let them go. And they'd go out there, and what would they do? What do you think they do? They get drunk. Yeah, they'd be drunk before the day was out. So he said, okay, that they need a little bit more time. So I'm trying to think of that guy's name as I'm saying these things. So he brought them back in, and he would go grab them just off the streets, kind of kidnap them. They would not let us do that today. And he took them back to their house, put them in the back room, and kept them there for about 2 or 3 months at a time, feeding them well, making them exercise, making them do things. We can't do that to people today. But he kept them there for 2 or 3 months. And they would get sober, and they would get more healthy, and they were sleeping well, and they were eating well. And then after about 3 months, he would let them go. And what would they do? Right? They would go right back to the bar, or right back to the saloon, and they would get high loose again. He did that 10 or 12 times with different people, and he came to the conclusion that this can't be just their behavior. It can't be just that they're morally corrupt or have no willpower. It has to be a bona fide disease. This is something they have no control over. It's something that they cannot help. They cannot not use. So at that point in time, he declared that it was a disease. All the other doctors in the AMA at that point in time laughed him to scorn. Said, no, that's crazy. These guys are just morally corrupt. They just want to get that way. So that was like in 1850 or something like that, and they did not believe it at all. They said, that's crazy. We're not going to do it. It took until about 1952, and to show you how long ago that was, I was born then. So about 1952, they said, oh, well, let's take another good closer look at that. A lot of doctors poo-pooed it again, but they finally said, yeah, that is a disease. In 1952, it's a disease. We think that it needs a certain type of protocol to treat it, to do all of this kind of stuff, and that was a good thing. It was sometimes in the 60s that they looked at it again, And they said, yeah, this is definitely a disease. It has all of the things that make a disease, characteristics of a disease. So it is a disease. Thank you. You know, as I get older, sometimes the words that I won't escape me. But that was a good thing for you and I, because at that point in time it said two things. First off, if it's a disease, then that means I'm not morally corrupt. I may be morally corrupt, but the disease doesn't. I mean, that's not the fault of me being morally corrupt, or my disease is not caused by me being morally corrupt. I may have some willpower issues. I may not be, I may not have the greatest willpower in the world, but that's not what causes me to do all the things that I do. So if it's a disease, what's the difference about a disease or a moral ineptitude? If it's a disease, it can be treated. If you got cancer, you may not be able to cure that, but it can be treated. If you have HIV, you may not be able to cure that right now. I'm sure they're going to get it one day, but it can be treated, and you can live a nice, long, fulfilling life, so you can treat it. With addiction, you cannot cure it right now. There's no cure for it. However, it can be treated. So once we figure out it's a disease, it can be treated. And that's a big, big deal. That was a big, big deal for me. The other thing that makes it a big, big deal is that insurance will pay for it. That's a big deal. And more than insurance, state agencies are required to pay for it. And so that's great. That's good for us, but because that makes a state agency will pay for our treatment. They'll pay up to 60 days, something like that. And that's great stuff. They'll pay every day a certain amount of money for us to receive the treatment that we need to. Insurance will pay as well, and insurance pays a whole lot more than the state agencies pay, but it's a whole lot harder to get. So if you send in all of the paperwork and everything and says, hey, look, Dr. Garner needs to go back into treatment, all of that kind of stuff, then they'll say, okay, yeah, we're going to give him 3 days of treatment. Well, the guy's already been in treatment for 5 days, so what happens to the other 2 days? You don't get paid for it. So, that's just the difference between HHSC, TAP, and stuff like that. So what is addiction? This guy has already pointed out to us that addiction is a disease. And so we happily agree with that. I do. I ascribe to that characteristic of the thing. Agree? Say it again.
It looks like he's not having a good.
He's not having a good time, and I will tell you, when I was in my addiction, I don't remember one good day. Was not good for me. So addiction is a disease that's involving continued use of a substance in spite of serious substance-related problems, such as loss of control over use. I can't control my use. Health problems. There's not a drug out there that doesn't cause problems with your health. Negative social consequences. Your family is not going to be happy with you. Your friends are not going to be happy with you. Even when your friends or the other users in your life, when you start stealing stuff from them, they're not going to appreciate that. I know that for a fact. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt, had the t-shirt, but somebody stole it. Man, that's good call. So here's some of the signs. Loss of control over the substance use. We mentioned that. What that means is using more of the substance than we intended. We ask you that question on your assessment. Have you been using more than you intended to use, or used over a longer period of time than you had intended to use? So that's showing me that I have lost control, or I'm losing control over the use of my drug. I think push it the other way. Well, I think let me help you. The other one that we asked you is, have you tried to shut down? Have you tried to stop using on your own, or at least slow down a little bit? With difficulty, you can't do it. And, so difficulty reducing the substance use. That's another sign. That's where we're having a loss of control. Significant time spent obtaining, using, or recovering from the substance, whatever that substance might be, and having cravings. And cravings are strong desires to continue to use the substance in spite of or despite issues that we have when we're using it. Even though it's causing us some problems and stuff like that, we still want to use it. Social, occupational problems that we have, not fulfilling major obligations at school or work or at home. Some of those things that, we're supposed to do that. I had a lot of issues with that. One of the worst things they did with me was they put me on the nighttime schedule. That was not a good plan. I went to the nighttime schedule, and man, there, in the daytime, there's like 200 people working at that facility where I was. At nighttime, there was like 4. So nobody was watching. Nobody knew that I was bringing in booze. And nobody knew that I was getting drunk. Nobody knew that I was going out in the back, crawling up in a truck, going to sleep. Nobody was watching. So it wasn't fulfilling my obligation. School problems caused by continued use of a substance, whatever that substance might be. I'm using at school and having issues with my school work, with my school rules, doing things that I shouldn't be doing at school, or just dropping out of school. A lot of people quit going to school because we got to the place where the school just wasn't something I wanted to do because it was boring to me and I was high all the time and whatever. Decreasing or giving up important social or occupational activities. I did a lot of that, getting up in the morning and just don't feel good, don't feel like going, got the Monday morning blues, all of that stuff. And, So there's another one called risky use. That means using the substance in situations where it is physically dangerous. Can you think of one of those? What would be one of those if I'm using my drug in a situation that's physically dangerous?
Drinking and driving.
Then again?
Drinking and driving.
Drinking and driving is probably the biggest one. We not only drinking and driving, but using marijuana, cocaine, whatever it is, whatever our drug of choice is, we're using that to while we're driving. Another risky thing is some type of risky job. If you're working around heavy equipment, all that kind of stuff. We had a guy who was he was a lathe operator. Y'all know what that is? Running things spinning and cut metal and stuff with and spinning, and he got the sleeve of his shirt caught in that thing, and that before they could cut that off, man, it tore him up pretty bad, and his hands, all that stuff. But luckily, they were somebody pretty close to it. And if you'll notice something about most of those lathes, when you hit the emergency stop button, it doesn't just wind down. It goes boom. It has a brake that locks on that thing, stops it immediately. It may mess the machine up, but it'll stop that thing immediately. Because people do stuff like that. I don't.
The chainsaw that like senses when it touches skin, gosh, like that.
Right. Yeah. In that particularly situation, he was breaking a safety rule. What was the safety rule?
Sleeve.
Long sleeve shirt. You can't wear, if you're working on a lathe, you're not supposed to have long sleeve shirt. Yeah, because it'll grab it. And so that proved it there. I had another guy that was in that same shop, and he had a permanent job. They gave him a permanent job. He was a instrumentationist. We were at a place that built compressors for gas compressors, and they had to have tubing run all over that stuff, and he ran all of that tubing. But he had been using a grinder and using the wheel, not the grinder, but what is it?
Cutting the
No, it's not a cutting thing. It had all of the metal things. They're just cleaning to it.
wire.
Yeah, a wire wheel. Yeah, and one of those came out, stuck in his eye, stuck right in the center of his eye, and he's standing there screaming. And the supervisor, and I'll never forget him. He was really nuts. But the supervisor went over and grabbed it and pulled it out. So what happened?
What wire thing?
Well, his eye collapsed when he pulled that little piece of wire out of his eye. The eyeball itself collapsed. They took him to the hospital, and they said, if you hadn't pulled the wire out, it'd have been fine. But since you pulled the wire out, they had to reinflate the eye. They had to do all sorts of stuff. And today he has his eye. He can see out of it, but not well. But out of that, he got a job doing it. So those are some risky things we do. If you're high, if you're drunk, if you're doing something, you shouldn't do that. I was working there as a compressor mechanic, and we had a big old thing where you had a sandblaster. We had a couple of them. We had one that was handheld, and then one you had to walk in with a whole suit on and blast all of those big things. And I had the opportunity to do both of those. But those, you can hurt yourself with that too. You can blast your foot off with that big one. So it was some risky stuff. So using the substance in situations where it is physically dangerous. And look, most of us are smart enough to know that if we were sober, we wouldn't do the things that we do when we're not sober. If I'm sober and I was at a place where I was debilitated to a place where I could not drive my car safely, I wouldn't drive it. Because I'm knowledgeable enough to know that that's something I don't need to do, right? But once we get to the place where we have become inebriated, we've used that whatever drug it is that's gotten us to that place, then we'll go do that anyway. We'll do it because we want to, because we've taken our place. It's dropped us to that place where we'll do the things we shouldn't be doing. Physical or psychological problems caused by continued use of the substance over a period of time. We've talked about it in here a bunch. As you continue to use the drug, you continue to use drugs and alcohol for a period of 20, 25, 30 years, it's going to shrink your brain. And it's going to do some stuff to your liver, right? We've talked about the liver stuff, and it's going to do stuff to your kidneys, and it's going to do stuff to you physically. It's also going to do stuff to you psychologically. Can you imagine that you're still mentally the same when your brain has shrunken by 20%?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't psychologically you are on a different level. So, physical effects, there's some things that happen to us physically as we continue to use the drug. One of the first ones that we're going to notice is that we can use more than we used to. I've heard that old adage that so-and-so can drink you under the table. Well, that's not a good thing. There's several things about that. First off, I don't want to be under the table. And then secondly, that means that you're building tolerance. And as we build tolerance, that means that we can use more and more attempting to get the same high as we did before. And as we put more of that into our system, that means not only am I putting more of the drug in my system, I'm putting more of the poison that's in the drug as well into my system. Experiencing withdrawal, a lot of the time, what we do is we experience withdrawal. As we stop using the drug for a moment or so, then that level of drug that's in our body drops to a level where my body starts having physical withdrawal from the need to have that drug in my body. My body's gotten used to having it right here. So when it gets right here, my body begins to have physical things happen to it that tell me I need to bring that level back up. And so we'll start having problems like that, something going on, physical or psychological symptoms when not using the substance. Physically, a lot of the times, whatever my drug is, my body's going to begin to ache, to hurt, to sweat, to do all sorts of things. and then psychologically, I'm going to have a strong desire, that strong craving to have that drug again. These are some of the facts about addiction, and the one person. No, that's not true. I'm not going to say that. But these are some of the facts about addiction that we need to get a hold of. The first thing, addiction is a disease. We have come to the AMA and the APA both have declared that addiction is a disease in the 1960s, and they said, look, guaranteed this is a disease. Addiction causes changes in the brain structure and functioning. It's not caused by poor willpower. It's not caused by character flaws. So, one of the things about addiction is just like high blood pressure, and it's just like, what else? Diabetes. It's like heart disease. It's like all of that other kind of stuff. Y'all remember not too long ago, I went and had a CT scan of my head. I was having some issues. And they told me that I have a calcium buildup in my my saliva gland in the bottom, and that it's 12 millimeters long, and it's hard as a rock, and it's 12 millimeters long. You know how long 12 millimeters is? Half an inch.
What is that?
Well, it's right under your tongue. When you go into your bathroom, pick your tongue up and look. There's a saliva gland right there. There's another one right back here, and there's another right back there in your mouth. And so, that's what keeps your mouth moist and, stuff like that. But if they stop up, it's painful and they can get all really nasty. And a couple of those things came out. They were really small, but they were hard like rock, and it was calcium. I thought it was all gold. Say it again?
How do you get a plaque build up on there? I thought plaque was just like
not plaque, calcium.
Okay.
Calcium. And it grows in your veins, and it grows in anything like that shoot that's in there.
Yeah.
And so that's where it had grown, and it blocks that thing up, and it gets infected. It gets really big. And so in my situation, I have one in there that's half an inch long. But it took 72 years for that thing to build up. So it builds up slowly over time. Diabetes builds up slowly over time. You eat, that comes from the junk we eat. And, we don't know it. And, I eat this because it tastes good. Then you don't know in that situation that thing's going to, it's going to give you a whole lot of trouble and everything. It's going to grow up, and at some point it's going to become, a disease that's going to cause you a whole lot of issues. So,
Best friend died of diabetes.
say it again.
Best friend died of diabetes.
Yeah, and you can die from it. And it's crazy. It's really bad stuff. So, but it builds up over a long time. So, heart disease grows that. Y'all know I have 4 stents in the artery going to my heart, and that stuff in there, that plaque that built up in there, built up over years. It took 72 years for it to build up. Well, 70 now. No, it's 5 years ago. So it took 5 years ago was about 68. So it took like 68 years for that plaque and stuff to build up in my artery in there, where at 97%. So it took a long time for it to build up. And so addiction is the same way. Addiction can grow slowly, and it's not always easy to see. Many people with addiction continue to function in some parts of their life. Some people function in almost every part. They're called what? Functional alcoholics or functional addicts. I always have people, I haven't had so much in this group, but I've always had, down through the years, I've had people tell me, well, look, I know somebody that uses whatever drug every day of their life, and they go to work, and they're a functional alcoholic or a functional whatever, but that doesn't mean that their lives are where they should be. If they weren't having to be a functional addict, they would feel better, look better, smell better, and do better. You know, I know people who go to work every day and they usually wind up giving, somewhere between 60 and 70 and maybe 80%. Well, look, what am I paying a person for? I'm paying a person for 100%. How many people you think go to work give 100%? How many people go to work on a daily basis to give 100%?
Boom, this guy right
You think?
Give 100%. It's just spread out every week.
I've worked for many years. I started working when I was 16. I've been working ever since. There are times when I give 100%. There are times when I give 110. There are times when I don't.
Sorry. Maybe
That's fine. That's fine. So many people with addiction continue to function in some parts of their lives, and then they can lie to themselves and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm doing well. Everything is all right." Why do we have so many people working in the kitchen?
The
Kitchen
got
work.
cleaned up for the coming in straight to the kitchen.
Hey,
So they go
Kitchen
clean up.
workplace.
someone's got jobs.
All right. So they may be able to continue to function well in some parts of their life, but they have problems in other areas. So, maybe you don't see all of the problems that they have, but the use of drugs and alcohol causes the problem. So, and then they get to a place of relapse. Relapse means returning to regular substance use after a period of sobriety. A lapse, on the other hand, relapse means I'm gone and I'm staying there for a minute. But a lapse is an isolated incident of use without returning to old patterns of substance use. We also call that what? A slip. We sometimes call it a slip. If you go and you have a drink or something, but you don't go back into the lifestyle and you don't stay stuck there. So that's a really good thing. Relapses can happen at any point during recovery, which recovery we need to understand is a lifelong process. We don't just get over it by going to one of these things. I talk to people who all the time who've come through treatment 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Yeah, and sometimes it takes a whole bunch of time for us to come through, and sometimes we never get through. But it's a lifelong process. It's going to continue the rest of our life. We can relapse. I had a friend of mine relapse after 30 years. So relapse is something we say that relapse is a part of recovery, and it is.
I know what happened to us. I know a guy who relapsed after 29 years. He was dead.
This guy that I know didn't die, but man, he left his wife. He went and pulled his 401k. He worked at the plant, pulled his 401k out, brought him a brand new truck and a boat, and took off. So he must have had a lot of money in his 401k, But I never heard from him again. I don't know what he did, where he went. We were more friends with the wife. She was a hairdresser. My wife used to be one. So there is some treatment that we can have that can help us when we figure out, hey, I may have an issue. How do I know if I've got an issue? You know what? If I've lost something from my addiction, if I've lost something, if I'm out there and I've lost a house, if I've lost a vehicle, I lost a 68 Dodge Charger. They came, they got it because of my addiction. I blew the transmission in it. Went to jail, all of that kind of stuff. And they took it was metal flake green. It had up on the back of the car, there's where you fill it up with gas. It was beautiful. It wasn't a big, it wasn't real, it had a 318 in it. Yeah, it was beautiful. And it had a 318 in it. I was out on the highway, on Highway 10. I'm looking good. And a vet pulled up beside me. And I went, ooh, that vet it was like it disappeared. It was going, so okay. It was terrible. I raced another vet one time out on the highway, but I was in a station wagon, and the station wagon had a 454 in it. When that vet came up to me and went like that, and my gas gauge was going.
Yeah.
I stayed up with it though until the gas ran
But
out.
whose station wagon was it?
I can't remember. Was it a Dodge? It
It wasn't
wasn't.
the one that had two tanks on it, was it?
I don't remember that either. I don't think it did, but I don't know.
Those,
It was big. It was a boat, but it wasn't a Ford or a Chevy. It was something else.
No, Ford, I had a 98 Ford that had two tanks on it.
Yeah.
It's just a tank.
I would do it. I'd give
like the LTD type.
I'd give $20 right now today to have either one of those vehicles back. I'd give $50 to get my Charger back, but
Just to have the frame.
oh man, yeah. So here's some things that we could do if we feel like we might have some issues. Individual therapy, and we do have individual therapists here, and I'm going to tell you something that is helpful. That's helpful. We have LCDCs, and what is that? That's a licensed chemical dependency counselor. All of you in this room would be good at that. You go and get a little bit of education, and then go do what you have to do. Every one of you would do really well at that. When you have, that's the licensure that I have. That's a counselor, or counselors, and we can do really well in that. Then we have therapists who have a different licensure, different education, and they can help in different areas. So, individual therapy, a therapist helps change substance-related thoughts and behaviors and increase motivation for change. So there's also group therapy, and that's not what we're doing right now. This is an education group. Some of you are getting some education from the group. Some of you are not. But, there are education groups and there are group therapy. Some of the stuff that you do in process group is group therapy. It's led by therapists. Members encourage and support one another in making meaningful life changes. I worked for a long time where we would have a therapeutic group, and we would confront one another, and we would do some other things, and that was a pretty good group. Then there are support groups. Support groups are the type of groups that you go to the AA for and things like that. You meet with peers, people who have also that are in recovery, participate in a social environment free of substances. That's a good thing. The place that I go, they have sober activities that they do. They like to go to the beach, and they'll go to the beach and they'll have a barbecue and do all kinds of stuff like that. There is, at the end of that thing, and when you can't do anything else, there's medication. Sometimes medication is important. Sometimes, look, if you are, go ahead.
Say meditation.
Meditation's important too, but medication. If you have an issue with alcohol and you cannot not stop, what medication would help you stop? What is that? Ativan. I wouldn't give anybody Ativan for anything, any reason whatsoever. Personally, I don't like Ativan, and it may stem from the fact that I had a patient die on me from the overusing Ativan, and it was a young lady, and all sorts of stuff happened in that situation. Am I a real one?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I got my doctorate degree, the guy came up and said, "Hey, here's your degree, but now you're not a real doctor."
I didn't know. I didn't know. I just, I had a career law school. I didn't know.
I have degrees in psychology. I'm not a medical doctor. So,
I'll try not to write
so if you have issues with alcohol, it's not Ativan. It's antabuse. And antabuse is a drug that you can use that will, if you put alcohol in with it, it will make you deathly ill. You will maybe have to go to the hospital. Atabuse, Atabuse. And so it's a bad stuff, and you have to go to a medical doctor or a psychiatrist and ask for help in that area. So, and they'll give you that medication. Used in specific cases for symptom management, medication is most effective when paired with talk therapy. You just can't help yourself. You just can't.
I need to have that.
You need some. You need some. All right. So look, we are. That's what addiction is, and we need to understand that addiction is going to be with us probably for the rest of our life. There are ways for us to get rid of the addiction completely, but look, it doesn't happen in every case. I have seen God take it away, and I do believe, and I believe that God can and does and has taken it away from a whole lot of people. I've seen that happen, but I'll tell you that doesn't happen in every situation. It doesn't happen in every issue. So here's the deal. We've got to go knowing this thing is going to be with me the rest of my life. I'm going to have to deal with diabetes for the rest of my life unless God heals me from it. And then addiction is the same way. It is a treatable disease that's going to stay with us for the rest of our lives. So we're going to have to look at this thing as a disease. Now here's the thing. I have diabetes. Am I going to go take a job in a candy store? No, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to tell you I don't have willpower enough to keep me from using candy if I'm always confronted with candy. You know, if I'm working, I won't. Look, I'm not going to work in a what's one of those little convenience stores because the candy is always right there in front of me. Because I don't have that type of willpower, I am going to use if I'm there. And I need to know that because here's the thing. I don't have the type of willpower where I can go work in a bar. I don't want to be one of those folks who deliver booze. I don't want to drive a truck. Truck drivers, you can make a lot of money driving a truck, and it's an honorable profession, but I'm not going to deliver booze for several different reasons. First off, I'm not sure I wouldn't pull over in a rest area and pop the back door open. I might just do that at some point in my life if the trip was stressful and all of that. I might just pull over and do that. But I also don't want to be delivering poison to thousands of people like that. So it's just a moral thing. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to work in close proximity to something that I know is going to test the limits of my willpower. Now, here's somebody told me this morning or yesterday or something that, look, I know I'm okay. I said, okay, I'm glad because I don't want to drink again. Okay, is that good? Yes, it's good. It's not, it doesn't play into the disease at all. I'm diabetic. I don't want to eat sugar ever again. Am I liable to eat sugar again?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Because, I have that addiction and I know that and I just might get messed up tomorrow. Tomorrow, and y'all, just so you know, tomorrow is Miss Charnel's birthday. Yeah. And so they prepared for it today. They had 3 great big old, what do they call cupcakes? Yeah, or small cakes or whatever they are. They're that big around. They're that tall, and they're just sugar, And I walked in there. I'm looking at that stuff, and I'm thinking, good grief, that girl don't need all that. I should eat a couple of those for her to help her. Because I'm just trying to help her. I'm her friend. I need to help her with that. But I didn't eat it. But you know what? That desire is there. I really want to eat it. I'm not going to, but I really would like to. But it's right there, and if I took one of those things, one of them looks scrumptious. Some of them look pretty good, but that one looks scrumptious. Oh my God! If I took that thing, yes, then I can already taste it. But if I set that thing on my desk and just let it sit there for a while, there wouldn't be long before I said, well, I just want to test it. I just want to taste it. Now, I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it. I'm a diabetic. I'm not going to eat it, but I'm going to see what that strawberry thing I'm just going to test it. So I'm going to taste it, and guess what happens? Sugar is more addictive than any other substance on the face of the earth. Really, right below that is nicotine. So it's so addictive that sugar is going to hit my system and go. Oh no, that's fine.
What?
Yeah. So that sugar is going to hit my system. My sugar is going to go up, and I'm going to get shaky and all of that kind of stuff. And before you know it, I'm going to have a little bite. And I'm not going to eat the thing. I'm just going to have a little bite. And before the day's over, my sugar is going to be at 500. And I'm always looking for good excuses for bad behavior, which is one of the reasons we do the things we do. We're looking for a good excuse. We're going to do so. We're going to disrupt group, but I have a good excuse. The guy came and called me out. I'm not going to look the other way because he's going to give me something. I'm going to, I got a good excuse. The other day, the 24th, today's 26th, so on Tuesday, I took my wife out for breakfast because it was our 53rd wedding anniversary, and the lady came out and said, "Well, what will you have, sir?" I said, I want the Mama Special. So what's the Mama Special? The Mama Special is 3 big old pancakes, 2 scrambled eggs, or any kind of egg, and 2 pieces of bacon, or 2 pieces of sausage. I said, that's what I want. Because I had a good excuse. It's my 53rd wedding anniversary, so that's a good excuse for bad behavior. I ate all of them. I ordered extra syrup. I used all of the syrup. My blood sugar went to about 600 and stayed there for most of the day. So, that was stupid of me, but I had a good excuse for bad behavior. I said, we'll do that.
Figured you have like 6 pounds being diabetic, I do that.
It makes you feel really, really super duper lethargic. Feel really, really bad. One of the best things to do when you feel like that is to go work out. But unfortunately, when people feel like that, they feel really lethargic. They feel really down. They feel really. So most of the time, they go to bed and take a nap. And that doesn't help at all. And that's where they find them dead a lot of the time. So when mine gets up, I go do something. And if I can't go to the gym, I'll go walk around or do something. And that helps. When it gets real low, you feel like you're going to die, you get real shaky. And mine the other day went to 48, real low, and real shaky and all of that stuff. So you have to eat a cracker or eat some kind of candy. Just don't eat chocolate. Chocolate's
So like what?
doesn't have a lot.
I get that way sometimes I get shaky. But I feel like I eat a lot of food.
You do, but you may not be eating the food that you need to bring your sugar up. So you may need, next time you go to the doctor, tell them you want to have a test to see if you're pre-diabetic or something. 75% of Americans are pre-diabetic because of all the junk they put in on here. So if you're feeling that way, have them tested. And if that's
true,
true.
it goes untested.
Well, it'll just do the same thing. You'll have the issue without knowing how to deal with it. Yeah, because they can give you medication and stuff and help you deal with it. One of the ways for you to test yourself, next time you're feeling shaky or something, go get you a couple of pieces of candy, see if that makes you feel better. If it does, you can say, well, hey, maybe I do. I'm not a proponent of self-diagnosing. I think you should go get a doctor to tell you. So we said we were gonna take our break a little bit early. So we're going to do that. We're going to take a little bit, take our break, get back about 15 minutes after, give you plenty of time to get back to all those things. And then we'll shut down the other ones a little early as well. Makes sense to me. Makes sense.
He's a wagon.
Hey, they make it. They're not.
Is it on her?
Oh yeah.
That's it, that's it, that's it. You will.
You gotta run back and forth like a soccer team.
Right. Did you need the answers for me? You're amazing.
Did you hear me? Keep your hands in there, dude. Dude, you come back here, dude. You told me, dude. Same thing you told me back. Nothing right there?
No, thank you. I have another cupcakes for lunch.
Okay. God. God is talking about talking about.
What's in your car?
Right. 4 months ago.
I think my dad was
Probably.
blood pressure. Seeing it's all right.
Well, sit down. Is he in the office?
Oh, you can't come back here. No,
Huh? Okay, squat 180 pounds. I said 10. You said, huh? I think so. No, not higher. 13. I'll put it here in the chain marks, but man, I think that works. I ain't gonna like that either. I try to get out of bed before my legs stretch. That there.
Still no cup.
rich and smooth. Little that's hot. I don't know. I figured it out. Put down.
You went to Oxford today?
What did you say? Just got Jefferson. Oh, he's not clean. He's weak,
Oh, is it?
I keep trying to tell him. He's like, nah, I don't need this. Oh, did you?
So
No.
you need what?
Don't look at me, I can see it. He's not eating up bad.
Hey, lunch. We're going to close. Lunch, brother. He's here to do this.
He says he can do it. He ain't trying to do it without hurting.
He ain't a room, man.
Yeah, so what is
What you do?
I'm gonna certify them. He's like, yeah.
He did it one time. I didn't hurt.
One time, 55 cents a check.
One time, one day. Now imagine him doing roofing construction. Yeah.
He ain't showing out.
He would drive.
We figure out what.
He like, oh, you go home.
Oh, no.
Put you on that room. True, town plant making mistakes. Shit.
I can handle it.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's right, where I'm going back. Working that day. Making connections.
Not that day. Maybe next week. Yeah.
Huh? No, Monday morning.
That's why I said the next phone.
Yeah, I'm okay.
That day. Maybe like, they can get out.
I'm gonna go home. That's how my sister.
Make sure you take a look
Or that.
Shit. Yeah. No, serious. Yeah. You get the smell out your sleep. Be all praise dude.
Eye of the tiger.
Maybe.
Oh, that's
Maybe.
amazing.
Maybe.
We just got some.
Guy, that lady got smoked so bring my phone. Maybe.
No. Smell. I'm just trying to help.
Damn, I don't need it. That's what's so damn good.
Let's Black Then, what's very yeah, that's all
And you use a seal. Is that you can
I have something for you. How's it look, son?
they go to
Oh, he's about to come to anyway. I'll try. Try.
you may be a little late. Just for me. For me. For me. Ahora entonces. Cuatro. Yes. Funny right there. Wait, I ain't supposed to be a group. No, I'm gonna have one-on-one.
Side and the 30 underwater rushing tight. I gotta go. So.
Are you ready, Ariel?
Outside, going on a limb, tearing at the band-aid.
But how do you find the day and find in breath outside?
Soon I gotta go, gotta take
I mean, so I get this night. It's not cool. It's not shit.
Oh, there's a
Oh yeah. Alrighty then. Another thing we want to look at on addiction, and it's pretty important, is to discover the dangers of cross addiction. Lots and lots of people really don't understand what cross addiction is. First thing that we need to understand, and we'll over that a little bit, addiction is. And once we got addiction understood, we know what the, addiction is, what it's doing. We need to look at cross addiction. So what does cross addiction show? What does cross addiction mean?
Couple different things.
Say it again.
Couple of different addictions.
Couple of different addictions. That's pretty close. Here's the deal. If I'm addicted to
addicted to most stuff.
pretty close. If I'm addicted to cocaine, am I addicted to alcohol?
No.
What's the difference in cocaine and alcohol?
It's called drugs.
They all go drugs.
Cocaine is a stimulant.
It's a stimulant.
Alcohol is a depressant.
Alcohol is a suppressant. Okay. So they operate in different areas of our brain, and we're using, however, if well, if you combine them together, they just get you higher. Alcohol will get you high for a moment, and then press. Presses you have to get high first. Press before you train. You have to fight. You go to sleep. So when we use a stimulant, what else is a stimulant? As any kind of stimulant is a stimulant. You know, cocaine, hormone, stuff like that. Stimulants. What's another good depressant?
Opiates.
Opiates can be a depressant. They're more a pain.
What about saying
What's the difference between heroin? Opiates. Same thing. The black stuff. That's heroin. That's heroin.
Yeah, black heroin.
What's the difference between that and cocaine? Same. No, they're not.
Not. Heroin is what? What's heroin?
no?
What is it? It's an opiate. It's a natural opiate. Most of the other opiates that you get are built in I was going to say gym. It's not. Hopefully, they're not made in the gym. They're made in a clinic or something. Yeah. So another good depressant is cannabis. Marijuana is a depressant. It does the same thing as alcohol on a little bit different level. It will take you up just a little bit, make you a little bit more excitatory, and then it's going to take you to a depressive state. And so, if my drug of choice is cocaine, then if I go back out and use cocaine a little bit, is that going to wake my addiction up?
Yes.
Yes, it will wake my addiction up. So, if I go out and use alcohol, if my drug of choice is cocaine, that wake my addiction up?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So any drug that I'm using is a mood-altering drug, and false addiction tells me that if I'm addicted to one drug, then I have a much higher propensity to be addicted to any mood-altering drug. So if my DOC is cocaine, and I go out and have a beer, then that's going to wake up my desire for cocaine. We had a guy that was in prison for 20 years. Doing that 20 years, he didn't get any cocaine or anything like that. I don't know. He didn't tell me. So I don't know that he had any hooch or anything. You know, we made a lot of hooch and stuff in prison. And I don't know if he had any of that or not, but he didn't have any cocaine or anything like that. He got out of prison. He was out for one day, and a friend of his came over with a case of beer and tempted him. Told him you have a cold beer because that's not your thing. So it took him about 2 hours. Suddenly, at some point, have a cold beer, and then by the end of the day, he cocaine again. So it will wake up that addiction in your brain, about right here. You have a thing called tetrahydroquinone. If you are an addict, you have a deal called tetrahydroquinone. It's a very microscopic thing. You can't see it, anything like that. Drinking alcohol causes it causes your body to create tetrahydroquinone. We don't call it that. We call it FIG. FIG is easier to say. Your brain is building up that little small part of tetrahydroquinone in there. Other drugs like heroin and cocaine and stuff like that, it brings in tetrahydroquinone from the outside with it, and that collects in that same spot in the center of your brain. Now, what happens when you stop using? Then the tetrahydroquinone goes to sleep, and it's just there. and it's not doing anything, and it's gone okay, and it's never, don't need to use, and all this kind of stuff. But once you drink a beer, you have a little shot of something, then it wakes that thing back up. That thing wakes back up, then your level of addiction is at the same level it was when you stopped using. This is one of the reasons that we lose a lot of people who are addicted to cocaine or addicted to heroin or something like that. Then they decide they're going to have a beer. They go ahead and have a beer or something, and their addiction wakes back up to that same level, and they're addicted at the same level. Their tolerance is not at the same level. So they go use exactly what it was that they were using before they quit, and their body is not used to that level, and they kill. They overdose because they could use this. They could use this before they quit. And so they've been quit. They've been off of it for years, and so it's gone down. The tolerance level has gone down here. They come back in and they go back here, and so they overdose and they die. So we lose people like that. This is why cross addiction tells us that, hey, if I go out here and I use alcohol, even though my drug of choice, and I get this from people all the time. I have people tell me, well, I'm going to use this, but I'm not going to use that. And because this is the drug that got me in trouble. That drug didn't get me in trouble. You using that drug is going to take you back to that drug almost immediately. You're not going to be able to not use your drug of choice. So the big deal is, here's the thing that we understand. When I get off of my drug, when I go into recovery, I go into recovery from all mood-altering drugs. Not just my drug of choice, but all other mood-altering drugs. Whatever that drug might be, I've got to stay off. If I decide that I'm not going to do that, that tells me that I'm not going to stay in my recovery. I'm going to be, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to stay in my recovery, and I'm going to be using not only whatever drug that I have decided to use a little bit of, I'm going to use my drug of choice for long. So any of these drugs are called the present tetrahydrocannabinol. So there's a few other things about cross addiction that has nothing to do that we want to grab onto anyway as well. In recovery, cross addiction also refers to trading one addiction for another addiction. So addiction on any level is not good. It's not a good thing for me to be addicted to anything. Because addiction always carries me to excess. If I'm addicted to food, I'm going to eat too much. If I'm addicted to sex, I'm going to have too much. If I'm addicted to sugar, I'm going to have too much of that. If I'm addicted to work, I'm going to work to a place. Look, being a workaholic is not a good thing. So I'm going to work to the place where I'm not doing enough self-care, and I'm not going to be okay with myself. If I'm addicted to religion, then I'm going to be there to a place of excess. So anything else that I am, that I'm doing, excess can be dangerous for me, right? So I have to be careful of that. In cross addiction, a new addiction takes the place of a previously addictive substance or behavior. One of the things that we make a mistake on is that we believe that we only get addicted to a substance. We can also get addicted to behavior. A lot of people are addicted to anger. A lot of people are addicted to some other type of emotion. It's a lot of things. We've had to deal with a lot of people who are addicted to just feeling emotions. All the time, they have to have that. They have to force that feeling. So that new addiction takes the place of that behavior to produce a similar high or similar feeling. Addicts not only craving the physical substance, they're seeking emotional or psychological release. comfort or escape. Because of this, addictions can easily be transferred from one substance to another substance, one habit to another habit, from one substance to another habit. Yes.
In some way, shape, or form, that can somehow be held.
Well, no. Let me say this: no and yes at the same time. If someone comes to tell me, look, I'm addicted to cocaine, but I'm going to trade that addiction for a work addiction. I cannot not have an addiction in my life. I'm going to be addicted to something, either heroin, cocaine, or work. I'm going to choose work for them. I'm going to say, okay, I would prefer that you didn't have any addiction at all, but if I get to choose the addiction in your life, and if you're going to have one, then I want you to be addicted to work. But I don't want you to be addicted to work, because here's the thing. Addiction, being addicted to work, being a workaholic, can be necessarily, but it has all the traits of addiction to substance abuse. Because if you're overworking, it's going to hurt your health. If you're overworking, it's going to hurt your home life. You know, wife, husband, kitty poos, all of those people are not going to get you like they're supposed to have you. You're not going to be there for the birthdays, and you're not going to be, because you're at work. You're not going to do those things. You know, that you're like in the way that you. So it's not healthy to be addicted to work. And see, it's so hard to say that because it's more healthy, I believe, than being addicted to some type of drug.
I want to actually look at me switch now. See, I tried that alcohol.
Yeah.
I thought I was pretty good with that. L5 UAs, in a row for alcohol. For alcohol, I had to quit 72 hours, and I couldn't even do that. You know what I mean? So now what I was talking about is my health. Like so, when I was literally referring to working out, going to the gym, burning the gym. That way, I my time, my body, what I do.
Well, and that's look. And again, you know, if I talk to people and they say, "Look, I'm going to do one or the other. I'm going to be addicted to working out, or I'm going to be addicted to heroin." Then if I get to choose for them, I'm going to choose working out. But if I get to choose as well, I'm not going to choose that you are addicted to anything. We have to have a balance in our lives, and the balance says that I'm not going to have any type of food altering drug in my life. But I'm going to go work out, but I'm also going to work. I'm also going to have spiritual things in my life, also going to have family things in my life. So it all has to be, some type of balance, some type of self-care in my life. Now, working out is part of self-care as long as you don't carry it too far. You know, we don't need to be, I go to the gym every 3 days a week. And there was a time in my life back in the 80s, I had a job that would let me work out as much as I wanted to. I was in the gym 7 days a week, and I was just there all the time. And then, my wife finally said, "Hey, you're not going." "What do you mean? This is what I do." No, you're my husband. You're going to stay home. We're going to go out to eat. I don't go out to eat. I have these pieces of steak here that I eat, and then on Tuesdays it's eggs, and you know what we're going to a seafood restaurant. I have seafood.
So let me ask you something. Wouldn't it be better to have things to do things for your addiction? Like you say, work out, eat, spend some time with family.
Yeah, and all of that.
Just to motivate your mind. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. And all of that sounds like a well-rounded life. That's not being addicted. I have seen people who are addicted to education, addicted to knowledge. I know a guy he's a counselor, and he has 3 master's degrees. And it takes a minute to get a master's degree, and he has 3 of them. I know another guy that was working with me in the world, and he had a couple of them and was working with others, and they were just kind of driven to do that. That was all they were doing. And at some time, you need to say, okay, that's enough. I need to do this or that or the other. what you were talking about sounds like a well-rounded life. You know, I'm getting up in the morning, I'm going to work out, then I'm coming back and have some time with my wife. I'm going to do some work in the yard. I'm going to go to work, and then I'm going to do my job back home. Weekends, I'm going to go do some work in the yard, and I'm going to go to church. And just that sounds like a well-rounded life. But if you're overdoing in any of those areas, you need to see how you can add in the self-care that you need to add into that. It's going to keep you from wanting to be doing one thing addictive. It's not good because it does the same thing. If I'm in the gym all day long, every day, then I'm not doing my spiritual workout. I'm also not doing my familial things. I'm not doing my work things. I'm not doing any of those things. So nothing that I do addictively is something I should be doing addictive.
But I was thinking about all that in general. Saying, the AAP, spiritual,
Well, if you're doing all that, that's not, yeah, and that's not addictively doing it. If you fill your whole day with the different things and you're doing what you're supposed to do and all of those things, then that's not addictively doing anything. So the other thing is sometimes there are times in our life when we need to go somewhere and sit down. Just take a break. We need to be able, you don't necessarily have to do it by yourself, but you need to stop working for that day. You need to stop working out. You need to stop doing whatever it is. Here's the thing. If I cannot not stop, then it's a problem. If I say today, I work out 3 days a week, if I don't really feel like it, I ain't going. Because I'm in control of that. It's not in control of me. So if there's anything in my life that I cannot not do, then I need to stop it. Because that is suddenly in control of my life. So, and it's become an addiction. And any addiction, whether it is a habit, whether it is a function, whether it is whatever it is, I need to not become addicted to it because that's giving over my life to the control of whatever that addiction is. That's what. Okay.
So I was wondering, since we're all here,
Yeah.
why isn't that some of the other work that talk to us? So
What other work?
like give us some type of understanding of what they did. Because sometimes what they say could somebody hear too. You know what I'm saying?
What other work? Oh, you're talking about Miss Sierra?
You know what I'm saying? I'm one of the ones that would like to know what choices you made and how did you fix it? What did you do to work on what you went through? You know what I'm saying? Because it could help somebody.
It may. They and I can't answer that question. I'll tell her that you made that request.
Yeah.
But we have this education group, and they hired me to do the education group, and I can tell them that there's folks in there that's not satisfied with the education group.
No, it's not that.
And they would love to have you come and do that too. They have their job too. They're not sitting up there just doing nothing. They are in session right now.
But you understand what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, you'd rather look at some of them than look at you. I understand. Well, the big thing, I appreciate it. One of the big things we need to understand is that these things, these addictions, can easily be transferred from one substance or from one habit to another. Cross addiction can occur in various ways. Not everyone who recovers from one addiction will necessarily develop another addiction. You don't have to, but we need to watch and make sure that we're not doing those types of things. Although it is common, why do you think it's common for us to develop another addiction?
Addicts in our genes and it's the point that we're feeling. We're used to a certain ritual in our mind, and we're trying to replace that. We're talking about our brain, the beautiful things that we're searching for something to replace that. To do just that.
I think that's entirely correct. I think we are We have an addictive nature. We have it's in our genes. We are addicts, and so being an addict, I'm usually looking for something to be addicted to. So when it's very common for us to get out of our addiction to the cocaine, alcohol, whatever, and become addicted to something else. So this is common. So um, So cause addiction in various ways. Not everyone who suffers from one addiction will necessarily develop another, but it is common. Substituting one addiction for another often affects those who are newly sober, although it can strike anyone in recovery, even if they have not touched the original addictive substance in many, many years. We need to just understand that stuff happens. The reason it happens is exactly what you just said, I think. Whenever we engage in something that is pleasurable, whether it's eating chocolate or getting high, your brain releases dopamine, the feel good chemical. As an addiction develops, the brain begins to need the feel good feeling in spite of the negative consequences of using drugs or alcohol. That need triggers cravings for the substance or the activity. So if we go and we start working out, or if we go and we work really hard and we're looking at what we have accomplished for that day, going on the way home after work or something like that, it releases some of that dopamine into our body, and we get a little bit high about because we're excited about what we're doing and all that kind of stuff. So wait a minute. When in recovery, even though the original substance is no longer in the body, the brain continues to desire that feeling. You want to get that feeling. In other words, you want a new drug, new activity. There was a song that I used to listen to. That you listen to the news, think maybe want a new drug, but it won't make me sick, but it won't make me feel like 3 feet thick. Y'all remember this? Don't you know? The desire for a high can influence recovering addicts to transfer that past addictive behavior into other activities or use other substances to fulfill the craving and reduce the unpleasant side effects of withdrawal. Individuals in recovery, they experience a lowered level of dopamine. Remember, if we use a lot of drugs, it depletes our dopamine level, and our body starts yelling, we need the dopamine, we need the dopamine. So if I'm not using drugs to cause the dopamine to pop off into my body, then I'm going to be exercising overly, I'm going to be working too hard, I'm going to be doing something that's pleasurable too much so that my mind will dump some more dopamine in there because it's been depleted. It feels like it needs to have more of the dopamine. So, anybody like dopamine dumps? I do. I enjoy dopamine dumps. I want to feel good. That's why I go work out. That's why I do this, do that. So I get it.
Okay. So, to my understanding, which is not a very clear understanding, omega three supplements. What's your opinion?
Take them every day.
Sir,
I take them every day.
I do too.
Twice a day.
I have it. And what is your opinion on how they help your doctor?
They're supposed to help, but and they make me feel good that I'm trying to do something to help. My body. I take cinnamon. The reason I take them is they're supposed to be good to lower your sugar levels. Supposed to do that as well. So I take, is it Ceylon? CEYLON, Ceylon, cinnamon, and then omega 3s. So because both of them are supposed to He used to take fish oil
Yes.
because it had omega-3s in it,
Yes.
and now just take omega-3s without the fish oil.
I was recommended from a specialist when I got into my last accident, and I had a pretty good concussion the next far right here. So, anyways, they told me that it helps with your brain and kind of snap it back to helps reconnect certain thing. That's what I was told by specialists. I don't know how accurate that is or if that's
Well, I will tell you this: it can't hurt. So I would, I use them twice a day, 2,000 milligrams, 4 grams a day. Yes.
The good ones for serotonin, massage the serotonin are ultra ligates,
so.
ligates.
That's great. Sounds cool.
Yeah, there you go. And I appreciate that input because, like what he said earlier. But I do appreciate it. If you have knowledge, you need to share it. You need to share what you've got. And so we all need it. You need to share it, especially stuff. So, I'm gonna have to go in here and just real quick because individuals in recovery, we got a lower level thing. This limits when we have that lower level of recovery. It inhibits our ability to feel happiness or excitement. So that happens a lot. The good news is the brain, and this is a good part, the brain can fix itself at least in part. The drugs that we use mess our brains up. Our brain will repair themselves at least in part. They won't go back to 100%, but they will get something better. They'll get better than what they were. So take the stuff.
I'm sorry, I want to say something. So I have been hit a lot in my head, suffered major lot of concussions. Okay, enough to retire and go. Seriously. So with that being said, I've been told by different specialists about taking certain things. That's literally verbatim what you just said. I've been told, and they told me, but just because it won't go back to 100%, you gain all that you feel like you lost. You will and gain back to the equal stats, but it's going to be different. They say that you can unlock. That sounds so low.
Oh, that sounds good.
But they said that your brain is always capable of connecting to. I don't know how I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say, but there's hope.
Well, let me share this. We use about 10% of our brain. We get something that gives us a TBI or something like that. Your brain has plenty of excess stuff to do. So it can go back and some of the stuff that we have destroyed may stay destroyed, but it can wake up some of these other areas and get them to pumping in too. So we never need to get. I have a guy that I know who's a minister. Wrecked a motorcycle, and he wasn't playing. When he wrecked his bike, he got a TBI that put him in a coma for like 2 years in the hospital. 3, because they're a long time. He got back out of that, covered to the place where he goes to prisons and teaches. He was supposed to be coming out here, but they moved to Louisiana, some kind of reason, But he goes to those, and he's a veteran, so he does veteran things at a lot of different places. So that TBI could have been a life-changing, and it was, but it could have been a life-ending thing. He could have been sitting at the house and rolling, but instead he began to work. Now here's the deal: as you need to continue to learn, because as we had problems, as we had TBIs and as we had this, that, and the other, and as we're getting studying, and I watch, they're studying all the time, dictionary, and go get a degree, go do something else. they're online, go to that Allison place and just study more. That will help you to and to work.
Practicing sounds silly, but the truth is that every time that I was fast, put my brain down, whenever I would get start writing, and as hard as it is, it's literally it's over. You will know
That being said, I agree with you, and I wouldn't have no sort of knowledge to even try to agree with you. Like I knew what I was talking about, but like I said, I haven't been talking about. Anyways, a good interest. He gave me an app to download on my phone, and it asks you different questions in sequence, and it doesn't let you know what part of the brain. I don't even know how this works, but the app. The questions you ask, or whatever picture shows you, whatever question it is, they know, but the app knows what part of the brain you're going to use to answer that question. I don't know how that makes sense. I really don't. Yeah. But when you're done with the quiz it gives you, it tells you this amount of questions that you use inside your brain. This amount of questions that you use inside.
Did he goes as far as like
I had to do all that.
I will say that I swapped hands about 3 years ago and I never went back to them.
He's talking about brushing his teeth, y'all.
So here, real quickly, we're done. Cross addictions threaten your recovery. It's very important to keep your recovery goals in mind, what you're trying to accomplish going through treatment. It's really easy to minimize the seriousness of cross addiction. So it's easy for us to look at it and say, that's a healthy activity. Working out, going to church, those things are healthy activities. Going to group. Got a friend who lives in AA. I mean, it's hurt his family, it's hurt everything. And he's sober, but my God, I mean, he has destroyed everything else in his life to be there. He's going to be there. He's not only going to go to the regional things when they come, but he's going to do all this stuff. And he's still doing that. But that's his addiction now. That addiction has destroyed his life in the same areas that addiction to alcohol had cost him. It's cost him his wife, cost him his house, cost him things. So
pretty much what you're saying is that addiction knows no discrimination.
That sounds good. That's good. Addiction, here's guys here. Addiction does not discriminate. Whatever you're addicted to is going to do damage to you.
Is his name Arthur Garza?
No.
Your friend? That's
my
sponsor's name.
Michael.
But he's on every single. The AA guys here know him. I mean, everywhere I've been, they know him. He's all the way from I can go to
Michael Boyer. Thank you. I know some of y'all know him. He's a good kid.